herbs are used for pain, there was no doubt about that. I know one good herb that works for pain, and that's mugwort. And the Chinese herbalists use it as moxibustion, and they actually burn the mugwort underneath the painful area. And you'll find though that the best herbs for pain are already banned from us, and yet were used right through the ages. Herbs like poppy, all of the opiates, dogbane, you can't get that in Australia, another good herb for pain. What about herbs for sleep? I know of a very good one from South America, Malungu. And yet the Therapeutic Goods Administration in Australia stopped us from bringing that in at one stage. The reason being is that all herbs can only be used as foods, and if they're not foods, therefore they're not, if they're not classed as foods, therefore they must be a therapeutic good. And if they're a therapeutic good, they must be approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration, which can cost up to $100,000 to have it tested and more, to have it tested and approved, and then you have to pay an extortionate fee to them every year to be able to use that herb as, let's say, a sleeping aid. And let's get back to it, the cost, and this is the scandal of it, $100,000. Who is going to spend that money? Because after all, there is no money in herbs, and pharmaceutical companies know that. They can't patent them. They know there's money in pills, and I can give you a good example of that. You can buy a month's worth of brownie herb from us for $10, and we make a profit on it, and that's after importing it, etc. If you buy it as a pharmaceutical pill, it'll cost you $80 for a month's supply. Look at the markup from $10 to $80 just because they're in pill form. This is what it's all about. However, poppy, as we know, is also, and I'm talking about poppy tea, I'm not talking about opium, I'm talking about poppy tea. That is also banned, and that is a great sleep herb. What is a great herb for anxiety? Does anybody know? Damiano, sure. I mean, thank goodness they haven't banned that yet. And yet, the best anti-anxiety medication, and strangely enough, it was in the bookshop over there, it had kava, the best anti-anxiety medication. And as you're all probably aware, kava is now banned into Australia. Some of you will go, but I've seen it in Coles, which is true. I've seen it, a MediHerb bottle of kava capsules, which is true. I'm talking about kava, the natural herb itself, that has been used for thousands and thousands and thousands of years safely. We're not allowed to import kava, we're not allowed to sell kava in its natural form. However, there are companies that are allowed to profit from kava in tablet form, and that's how you can presently buy kava. But kava in tablet form is no fun, and I'm not even sure that it even works in tablet form. Because to turn a herb into a tablet, you have to bake it, you have to cook it, you have to cook all the active ingredients out of it, you have to fill it and colour it. It's no longer a herb. And this is why I personally object to this herbal medicines can kill. Because in just a bit of brief research that I did, out of the 251 herbal products that this man surveyed, only a few were actual natural herbs. And this is what I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about herbal products that the pharmaceutical companies or MediHerb or whatever put out. I'm talking about natural herbs that our ancestors used and we must be using too. It is our right to be able to use plants that grow on this planet. And how dare any government or anybody in the Therapeutic Goods Administration ban a natural herb? Who do they think they are? Do they think they're God? What gives them the right to ban a natural herb from us? And if it's going to do us harm, isn't it their role to advise us, but to prohibit a herb? We're living in a day and age, and I see it in the area where I live, close to Nimbin, where if you don't think there's oppression on herbs, we've got helicopters flying over our house all day looking for the evil herb cannabis. You know? And just the other day we heard of somebody who's in jail in America because on his girlfriend's camera he had a photo of a cannabis plant. He's pulled over at the border and he's now presently in jail. That's just the latest news. Oppression on herbs? And where is the evil in cannabis? For anybody using it, and for anybody who has used it, you must admit you use it for self-medication. You use it with the same rights and feelings that your ancestors did before you. You're not taking the drug to turn into a maniac as presented in that the evil reaper advertisement was put out years ago, where you turned into some crazy sex fiend that going to kill people and stuff. Cannabis has never been known to do that. And yet at the same time, look at the riotous behaviour with alcohol on the Gold Coast on a Friday or Saturday night. Anyway, I'll go back. I get upset to think that cannabis is banned. What's probably the best herb for depression? Damiana again. I think it's impossible to actually be depressed on Damiana. I'm not talking about those with deep psychological problems, and hopefully I have enough time today to get into that. The psychological problems that evolve from modern life and cause us to take drugs in a way. When you compare yourselves to your ancestors living in Pandora, where there are no stresses of the modern day life that we have today, it was a matter of waking up into a wondrous world and seeking the fruit that you needed and nibbling on the herbs. I don't even think back then they would have deliberately gone to herbs for healing. There is always somebody in a group of people that has that intuition, and they were the people that evolved into the witch doctors, the shamans, that continued on and continued on. But notice in Western society there is no, original doctors or shamans. And that's because of the witch hunt in the Middle Ages, where when you dealt in herbs, it was looked upon, this is in the Christian era, you were looked upon as, coming from Satan, and all of that was lost to us basically back then.